Hello and welcome to the Grand Cinema Hotel, a podcast hosted by two friends who love cinema. I'm Oliver and I'm joined by my co-host Gus. Tonight you'll be staying in room 147, Barbarian, the new subversive horror comedy directed by Zach Krieger. So go ahead and get comfortable and throw on that do not disturb sign as we host Halloween night in the safety of our hotel with Barbarian.
This process might seem overwhelming, but with a little practice, it can soon become a pleasurable experience. This is perfectly natural.
What is going on my Barbarians? And thank you for checking back into the Grand Cinema Hotel. Tonight, we'll be wrapping up the Halloween season, a very, very long month, in my personal opinion. And we will be discussing one of the most exciting movies of the entire year. I'm joined by Alvaro.
What's up, guys?
And we'll be discussing Zach Krieger's directorial debut, Barbarian. Alvaro, you saw this movie before I did. How did you come across this movie? And I mean, I know you're going to say you just always check out new horror movies, but what made you interested in this?
So I guess what was interesting about this one is AMC, because we have A-List, doesn't give out early access to much movies. It's always like special movies that they do it for. And this one had one, and I hadn't seen the trailer for this one, so I kind of liked.
Are you referring to the early access screenings?
Yeah, the A-List offers.
Mm-hmm.
And I had not seen a trailer for this movie. I knew nothing about it, and I kind of like that about it. Usually I have some type of trailer idea, which kind of sways me to not want to watch it or watch it, which kind of is like the situation with Smile, but not with this movie. So I kind of just wanted to go in there clean, and yeah, I walked out just kind of amazed, I think is the word that I would choose.
Shocked. That's
Yeah.
another way of putting it. I walked into this as well, not knowing anything. I mean, me and you talk about movies basically all day, every day. And this isn't one that either of us really mentioned to the other. I mean, I feel like we both knew about it, but for some reason we never were like, hey, do you want to see that movie? Or I think Letterboxd was probably, I saw the poster for it when it was going to come out. But I honestly heard about it from Sean Fennessy, I mean, the patron saint of movie podcasting.
Yeah.
Have us on one day, please. But, it kind of had that word of mouth of like, don't know anything, you know.
Oh, okay.
That was everything I started seeing, you know, the week leading into the movie was like, don't know anything when you go in, don't watch the trailer, don't talk to anybody, just go in as blind as possible. Which felt nice because that feels very antiquated nowadays. Like that's not something that there's not really the communal movie experience anymore. You know, everything feels so isolated nowadays. Like,
I agree. Yeah.
You have the people who are like, I only go see Marvel or IP movies, or no, I don't go see those. I only see these type of, yeah, exactly. I only see these type of movies. But when I saw it the first time, I went with you, so it was your second time, and it was packed.
Yeah.
So somewhere along the line, the hype train got rolling on this movie, and it really came out of nowhere to me. And I feel like it's like that for most people too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, correct me if I'm wrong. This is a Mickey movie, right? Like this is a Disney movie.
A Mickey movie, yeah.
In some aspects.
Century Fox,
so exactly,
20th
right.
Century Studios,
So I feel like is it in a way being empty manned at first, because I don't think this is really gonna.
Yes, it is.
It's not gonna supposedly get a physical release, right?
No.
And I feel like that's why the trailer for this wasn't prevalent, and I don't think they really marketed this movie. The posters are all really cool, by the way.
Oh yeah, the artwork is fantastic.
All of them,
whether it be fan artwork or official, I love all of it.
Yeah, it's been really nice. But I think that's also a way, like they were kind of trying to like hide it in a way, and I think in a way that benefited because it just kind of got word of mouth. And we were kind of talking about this little off pod a little bit. Probably talk about it a little bit more later, but it just seems like people are really into horror this year.
Yeah, this is this is one of the best horror years, I would say, financially and critically. You know, like the consensus is that, yes, horror has won. Like if they were giving away an Academy Award for the best genre, I think horror by far has a leg up on everybody, you know? Like,
yeah.
Comedy, what's that? That doesn't even exist anymore, really. Action movies this year, trash. You know, adventure movies, trash. Like horror really has kind of stepped up and kind of just taken that spotlight from what would maybe be like sci-fi in another year, or I mean, who knows what it usually is. I guess it's usually just like Marvel or DC superhero movies, right? Like when I think about genre, that seems to be the
prevalent one.
Yeah, the only prevalent one now.
What's the one that I feel like it's in everybody's face the most?
What genre do I feel like is in everybody's
No, like
face?
Marvel or DC movies, whatever. Like that just feels like it's the thing everybody kind of talks about. Movies as a whole, most people talk about.
Yeah, it's like a personality trait at this point.
Mm.
Yeah, I watch the movies. I watch She-Hulk. I go to Avengers Campus at California Adventure. You know,
Yeah.
I've been to Pim's Kitchen.
Yeah, we both know people just like this. So it's funny.
Duality. Maybe I've been both people at one time or another.
No, I mean, we were kind of talking about just being excited for other genres of movies, but as we were also talking about off pod, this podcast is very built on horror, and that's what this film does really good. I think is kind of just embrace the themes that we like in this podcast a lot.
Know, I didn't realize until earlier in the week when we were just talking about the pod and how it's been a little over a year, right? I didn't realize that half of the episodes are horror, and that is not what I expected. Like, I really didn't think that it would be like basically half a horror podcast, you know, but I love it. What am I going to say? Can't help it. I do think I'm kind of like sick and tired of talking about horror right now, but not Barbarian, just, you know, horror. So I'm glad we could get this one out of the way before we kind of move off that until the next big thing comes out.
Yeah, I feel you.
But yeah, I mean, pound for pound, horror is winning right now, you know?
So, I mean, again, going back to Barbarian, this great movie, in terms of spoilers, do you want to try to start as long as we can before we get into any?
Yeah, let's do the synopsis, right?
Yeah.
We will preface the spoilers because you could talk about 40 minutes of this movie without spoiling anything.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important that this is one of these movies because it was trying to be buried in a way, that it is pretty important that if you're listening to this and haven't watched the movie, that you probably should. And then you might understand why we felt that this... I mean, we watched this film kind of a while ago now.
Yeah. We saw it like the day before my birthday.
Yeah.
It came out the weekend of my birthday, the same way Malignant did the year before. So I was kind of like, oh, 2 for 2. Like,
yeah.
Do you remember when the Star Wars sequels came out? That was like our thing for your birthday.
Yeah.
And I would always be like, oh, let's go see the new Star Wars movie. For the past couple years, I usually get a good one. Like you took me to see It when it came out in 2017. And then Malignant, I watched that on my birthday. And then, this year, Barbarian was like the last movie I saw before my birthday. So that's been really fun. So like in September. And we're at the end of October now.
And like obviously we also felt it was the right time to drop it because it's on VOD now on HBO. So we rewatched it again and it has that rewatchability. You always want to show it to somebody.
Yeah, definitely. And because this isn't a movie we accounted for either.
No.
Like, you know, when we saw X and we heard about Pearl, I'm pretty sure in the X episode, we're like, we're going to talk about Pearl when it comes out. But this kind of just blindsided us, really. But let's go with the synopsis first. I'll go ahead and I have it here. So,
okay.
In town for a job interview, a young woman arrives at her Airbnb late at night, only to find that it has been mistakenly double booked and a strange man is already staying there. Against her better judgment, she decides to stay the night anyway, but soon discovers that there is much more to be afraid of in the house than the other guest. So I do think that off this premise alone, or off this synopsis alone, that this is maybe something that would have turned me off. And the week before, last week when we talked about bodies, one thing I didn't mention that I wanted to was that sometimes I think that when movies are so like ingrained in what's going on right now in the world, they kind of become a little off-putting because it's like, well, I don't need a movie. Like, I'm sure I could hear some story on Reddit or someone make a YouTube video in much greater detail than this movie goes into, and kind of get the horror that way.
Yeah.
Like how people like murder mystery things like that. So I wouldn't, if I had known it was about an Airbnb, I might have been like, but we're not going to get into it now. But there is a lot more going on with this movie.
Interestingly
that
enough,
plot point.
I think I feel the same way, but I went to go see Gone in the Night this year, which is a movie Winona Ryder's in, and it's the same premise.
So it's an Airbnb movie as well?
It's not necessarily an Airbnb. It's a cabin in the mountains, but it's double booked. So it's interesting that I didn't know what this movie was about. And when it started that way, I was like, no way, there's 2 movies this year with that same premise. And kind of felt the same way that you did. Be like, oh my God.
There's a lot of rental movies lately. There's Dave Franco's The Rental from a year or 2 ago. There was a movie this year with, oh no, you know what? That's not a rental. But there's a movie with Jason Segel and Jesse Plemons where, intruder in a vacation home type of.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of fear apparently in renting housing, right? That's like a communal fear we have now, and I think that could only be a problem in, well, I guess not. I was gonna say it could only be a problem in today's society, but if you think way back in the day, like founding times, could you imagine you go to another town, you have to stay in this inn, or back in the Western days, you just pull up to this hotel / brothel in the middle of the night. Huh? Yeah, exactly. Our imaginary hotel.
Exactly.
But I think this is just kind of like that fear of the unknown. That's one of the themes of this movie for sure. Yeah. There's a lot of different themes and ideas that this movie, I don't know if they successfully point them all out, but there's a lot going on here for a horror movie. I don't want to say it's elevated, quote unquote, but
yeah, I wouldn't say that.
I think it fits somewhere in the middle between elevated and total exploitation camp, shit movie. You know what I mean? It should be a bad movie. No? Yes?
Yeah, it should. It should. That's when I first walked out, I feel like that was something I wasn't used to, but that was because we're getting spoiled with what I think is really good horror films this year. And so this takes a different route. And then at first, you kind of read a little bit about the director, right? And he kind of gives you a little sentiment of where he's from, and then he's one.
Kids,
Yeah. I'm like, okay. But I think that's why the movie's grown on me after rewatches. I think once I kind of settled into knowing what I'm getting into, it's very unique.
I mean, the movie, when you boil it down to the movie, is made by a guy who is a sketch comedian / Twitch streamer / YouTuber. This is more in line with what I think you would get than someone like Jordan Peele, even though they come from the same world. And I brought up Jordan Peele because I was reading that he was kind of a guide, a kind of a mentor to Zach Kreger going into this, which I thought was really kind of just sweet. It was passing that torch of oh, someone else like me is going to come in and, make some crazy movie that people are going to love. And not that you can compare the two at all, but it kind of is taking that Get Out trajectory of being this really small movie that I think you said has already made 10 times its budget, or something ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
It cost 4, it made 42.
That's
pure Get Out stuff. That was exactly what Get Out did, was something similar like that. But yeah, dude, going into this movie, I just really I could not have expected it to go this way, right?
Yeah, I think something I wanted to bring up, because I don't like calling movies content, right? But the fact that everything else he does is content.
Hey, I don't make movies. I make content, okay? Yeah. They make movies. They don't make content, okay?
But the fact that he makes all the other stuff that I would consider content, so the Twitch stuff, right, is that I think he knows how to keep people's attention. It kind of forces you to understand how to keep everything coming at the right pace. And I think that this film, for some reason, has so much in its runtime that I don't think it's very long. It's only 1:40, I think.
It feels an hour though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If I really sit there and think about it, it feels like an hour-long movie.
Because there's not like not a lot really happens, but there's so much tension between what happens, and I think that's why this movie really stands out to me personally.
Yeah,
It's there's a lot of things that you necessarily wouldn't, the situations where you're like, just leave, or I would get out, or that doesn't make any sense. I think they do a good way of justifying those things.
yeah, like in the Pearl episode when just leave, right?
Yeah.
Just move out of your town.
They do really good ways of justifying those things, and I think what this movie does really well is just play with the viewer really well, the audience member, with our expectations in other horror movies that we watched all year.
So with I kind of wanted to get back to Zach Kreger a little bit and kind of how this movie came about. So he read a book called The Gift of Fear that was written by some like long time veteran in this like security business, right? And he wrote this book, and there was a section of the book that was all about women like trusting their instincts more, right? And when they come across these small red flags that they feel subconsciously that arise just in their daily conversations with men, just this idea of like not ignoring that, like you're probably not wrong that you feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so Zach Kreger just kind of, he got the inspiration from that book of that idea of like, what if I made this really fun scene of a woman just ignoring every single red flag you could think of, and then having to also subvert that, like once you've set that up. And I honestly think that this movie it seems a little much and like kind of a reach, but I do think that this is like a master class in subverting expectations.
Oh no, yeah, I think I would agree with that. I think
even though I don't think it's like the best written movie ever, like I do think there's a lot of heavy-handed kind of cringe stuff in it. Like gives me although I love him, it kind of gave me like Bo Burnham energy. You know what I mean? Like I'm a self-aware white guy who realizes that I'm probably the villain.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Wait, king behavior.
But, yeah, so there's certain things like that. Like although I do think it's like extremely well put together, that there is some heavy-handed messaging in the movie that's kind of like, I don't need you to tell me that,
Yeah, I get what you're saying. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's like this perfect mix of like being a really, I do think it's like a really bad and good movie at the same time, but like that it weighs out. It evens out for me at least, like all the good.
What I was gonna say is I think we were comparing it to Get Out, but I think those subverting the audience's expectations really work in this film a lot because, well, we can get probably into the cast a little bit, but like Bill Skarsgård.
Yeah. Yes.
Is that he's obviously, I don't feel like we're any hot take here. He's a really good actor. So I feel like all the subverting of expectations for him to be the main point of that. And I feel like one of the two, I guess, what would you call it? Like not a fork, because fork has four, but like part of a two-end, very important themes is the two males or prevalent males in this film, And I think how much importance he has to the stuff that you're talking about might be heavy-handedness, maybe in a way, but just end up working for this film the way that where it decides to take it. But Bill Skarsgård being a staple piece of this movie, I feel really helps this film in terms of being respectable.
I think the biggest high mark that you can give this movie is the subversion on every level.
Yeah,
like the plot, the way he subverts the plot, the way he subverts audience expectation by casting the people that he casts. Right. And that's why I wanted to bring this up. Casting Bill Skarsgård as a white knight, you know what I mean? Like this man is up. He's a Hasanabi head. He's heard,
exactly.
He knows the good word of like being a woke male. You know what I mean? Like that, and that is a good thing. But then you cast Justin Long as the the toxic Giga Chad, right?
Yeah. Oh my God, one of my favorite.
When Justin Long he's well known as like he's a scream queen. Let's just be real here.
He's a scream queen. Yeah.
Justin Long is one of our great horror actors. Like he's extremely talented, and I love a lot of his work, but you don't see him like that. Like Zach Kreger kind of referred to him, and this is also a reach. He's like, when you think of Justin Long, you think of somebody like Tom Hanks. Like, I know that guy. That's the guy from the Apple commercials.
Yeah,
That's the guy
exactly.
from Jeepers Creepers. Oh, it's accepted. He went to the South Harbor Institute of Technology. You know, that casting him as like an antagonistic character. I don't. But is he? Is he not? You know, like that's something we'll get into a little later.
Yeah,
but I just think on every level that like they subvert your expectations from the casting to how the audience is going to react to the movie, to the plot. Best part of the movie, honestly.
My smile, if I could explain it, just describing him being in this movie, but then also when I first watched the movie, seeing him being in it, because not knowing even the cast, you know, oh my God, it just felt the perfect cast for what this movie goes and where it tends to go in terms of its tone. You know, I just couldn't. Talking about Jeepers Creepers, that's something we've talked about on this podcast on the Horror Showdown, just like how much I don't know if it's a good movie, but it meant a lot to me, or it was one of my favorite ones as a kid. But then to also have
when they
comedies,
Justin Long,
yeah, exactly.
That's one of the most haunting images, like one of the first haunting images of my life.
And there's so much resemblance in this film to that workshop of Jeepers Creepers in terms of you know, which is another thing that's like not expecting, but it goes there. But what I was gonna say, but it's also having those comedies under Seth Rogen. You know, to know that he's so funny.
Yeah.
And this film just does those masterfully weaves in between those two films, and in a way that's kind of like abrupt. Honestly, it like even the way the editing is abrupt. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I think that's like what really stood out to me in this film.
So we've kind of been jumping around. We've done some first impressions. We've kind of talked about how the movie came to be a little bit. I kind of wanted to wrap this up before we get into the cast, because I feel like once we get into the cast, we can really start talking about spoilers and all those things. My overall take for this, if I had to try to sell it to somebody, or like if they said, what was your, if this was like the 80s when you come out of the movie theaters, it's like, Channel 5, how did you feel watching that movie? Yeah. Right? I'd be like, oh, this is extremely entertaining. But it was honestly a perfect time at the movies. It was packed house. You've seen something worth watching when one person walks out and goes, dumb, and then the two people who were sitting next to you are giggling with joy, you know, discussing what they just witnessed. Like, did you see that?
Yeah.
And that was the experience I had. I was with you, and I was a giggling dumb friend on the way out. I thought this was. I walked out and I was like, "This is my Malignant this year," right? And I don't think it exactly holds up to Malignant in the same way. I still think Malignant reigns supreme as the ultimate, like, what the fuck? But as the ultimate, what the fuck, dumb, this is good, this is bad movie. You know, like I feel like this is 2 years now of having something truly. Revolting, perverse, you know what I mean?
I like that.
Yeah, like just it made some audience members just upset, and others, you know, they had the time of their lives, and I was on that side. I had the time of my life watching this.
I think the energy that I felt watching it was what I would imagine is midnight horror showings for Halloween. You know, be like, you just watch something, be like, this is such a Halloween movie, and this is just thematically for the horror fans. This is like what you would want. This is subverting your expectations, taking from those B horror movies that people love so much, and just elevating it, which we've talked about a lot on this podcast. It seems a lot of our directors do, and seem that being able to do that is, I think, what differentiates better directors from others.
I just thought of this on the spot. Before we get to the cast, I have to say one last thing about the marketing. The marketing budget and the marketing for this movie was very small. I mean, I actually can't speak to how much the marketing was, but from the lack of advertisement, I would say it wasn't high, right? And the ultimate biggest con of having a low budget and no marketing, which other places like A24 and Neon get right, I need an online ceramics Barbarian tee.
Yeah, seriously.
You know what I mean? Like, I need the
point.
merch for this movie. Director's fits, online ceramics, or even somebody like Dumb Good. Please, I need the Barbarian merch. You know what I mean? Like, this is one of those movies, and I think this kind of goes along with the like midnight movie thing you're talking about. Yeah. And when I think of like midnight movies, I think of the Night of the Living Dead.
Exactly.
So like, I want to be the fucking 40-year-old neckbeard and a flannel wearing a Barbarian t-shirt.
Yeah.
You know? I want to be, when I turn into comic book guy from The Simpsons, I want to be like, well, actually, Barbarian.
Yeah.
But
Barbarian and Malignant, right?
yeah, exactly. Gabriel Hive, rise up. I like to think that the Gabriel Nation had something to do with the success of Barbarian.
Yeah.
You know, we felt the Zach Kreger was the protege. You know, the I don't even want to get into it, but you know, our creature, to say the least.
Yeah.
I do think that is a second coming of Gabriel. You know, a lot of inspiration there, and Malignant is king. We can wrap up this episode.
Yeah, like the Malignant episode is done. Part 2.
Here we go. Malignant again. I keep saying we're gonna get into the cast, but now that I've said the beast's name, I kind of have to keep talking about it.
Right.
How do you feel about this movie being compared to Malignant? Like, for you, is this like what you wish Malignant would have been? Because I know you're very low on Malignant, and you've made some bold statements in the past that you don't think that that's a movie you'll grow to enjoy.
No, I like this movie a lot more than I like
Trash.
Malignant. Yeah, no, I like this. This is my Malignant, I think.
Okay.
It just took a while to understand that. I think not at first. I did know that I liked this movie right off the get-go, but I wasn't sure if I loved it. And then after watching it and the experience that it is, I was like, I think this is my Malignant.
You know, I'm a big watcher of what The Real Row is doing on Letterboxd, and I noticed upon the first two watches, it was a 3.5, and I saw he bumped it to a 4. I'm just saying, follow this guy. He can't make up his goddamn mind.
It's ticked in the middle. It's ticked in the middle somewhere right there.
So you did enjoy this your last rewatch more than the other 2 times?
Yeah, which is interesting knowing where it's going. I think it's because I paid more attention to how it was crafted, which I might want to get into after we get into the cast.
We'll do that right now, but go ahead.
But yeah, like I think how the film is crafted, I think is something that I really noticed on this watch. That is something that a movie that has the budget that it has usually doesn't take the time to take care of. And I thought that was worth that like it'll stand in time because of that.
Nice. Yeah, I would like to think that this is a movie that's going to stand the test of time and be a big, you like horror? You got to check out Barbarian. Much like The Empty Man, much like Malignant, these are the type of movies that you become like a disciple of.
Part of the
you know
hive.
what I mean? Like you have to go out there and spread the good word. Like, have you seen Barbarian? Oh, you have to see Barbarian.
Yeah.
It's so good. Check it out. It's on HBO Max. You know, I mean, that's what we're doing right now. But I have seen you do it to like 2 people this week already. You know, you were like, have you seen Barbarian? So I'm proud of you for that. I'm proud of you for that. Okay, cast. We're here. This is another high mark for the movie, right?
Very.
It's a good mixture, I would say. You know, you have 3 main players, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have Georgina Campbell. She's our protagonist, our woman mentioned from the synopsis. You know, she's out of town. She's from out of town. She's here in the Detroit Brightmoor area for a job interview, and she has the double booked Airbnb, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's booked with Bill Skarsgård, fucking Pennywise, bro.
Nice.
You ever heard of him? My wife, she's not really a big like, oh, I know this actor's name or whatever type of person. There can only be one person like that in the house.
She's normal.
I'm taking space for all of us. Kind of like that clip of Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder where Jay Baruchel's going on about the difference between Blu-ray and DVD. My wife is often like, were you talking to me?
Yeah, exactly.
I was just podcasting out loud just in case anybody wanted to
listen. Free
I thought
episode.
maybe you or the baby would find this interesting. I guess I'm the only one.
You guys aren't antennas?
Yeah.
This isn't being broadcasted right now.
But she said it was the eyes. She's like, I saw his eyes, and she knew. She's like, that's Pennywise, huh? So, like you said, Bill Skarsgård is a great actor, and it has a lot to do with that look. I don't know if he's a handsome man or not. That's not.
I know, right?
I can't tell. I don't know.
I
He
know.
fucking creeps me out, right? But I'm like, I guess he's devilish.
He's devilish.
Yeah, he's quite debonair.
Because I think the other reason he's a very good actor seems to be something in that blood of that last name too.
Yeah, of course, dude.
The Baron, we got the Northman.
The Baron, the Beowulf, and Pennywise. He, like we've talked about with the subverting expectations, right? When you cast someone who is known for playing one of the
scariest,
the scariest, biggest, most iconic monsters in fiction, that's gonna stick with you forever. I wouldn't call it a stain because that feels negative, but it's something that people are always going to remember.
Yeah.
Right? And the other thing I've kind of found interesting, this is kind of jumping a little forward, but Zach Cregger cited Psycho as a big inspiration for this movie.
Okay.
And okay, yeah, sure, right.
Again, you talked about that with I think in Bodies.
Yeah. Exactly.
And she's like, this inspired me, and you're like, you're just stating the movies you really like.
Triple B's, as I'm referring to it for time, it was Chekhov, and Barbarian is Psycho, but I digress. We'll save that for another day. I do like the confidence thing. One thing I did like, though, was I thought it was a nice homage to Psycho, was that Bill Skarsgård gets to have a Janet Leigh moment. You know what I mean? Of like the big reveal, the big twist is like that just happened to the most famous person in this movie.
Yeah.
But going along with the subverting expectations, Justin Long, like we talked about, well-known actor. I wouldn't exactly say he is on the level of Bill Skarsgård. He has always been in that like mid-budget. Justin Long is not the type of movie star that he should be, because the type of movies that he succeeds in do not really get made anymore, right?
Yeah.
So like he's a scream queen, like we said. He's been in many horror movies and all iconic, honestly. Drag Me to Hell, Tusk, Jeepers Creepers, and now this, right? So all within different time periods too. So he always comes back, even though he does also, like, he did a lot of romantic comedies, a lot of just, like you said, I don't know if you mentioned Seth Rogen. I don't remember him actually working with Seth Rogen, but that time frame, of like the Judd Apatows and the I guess the Justin Longs.
It's Zach and Mary make a porno.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Granny panties.
It's such a small scene, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And he's in Dodgeball.
Yeah, there you go.
So that's what I mean, like what you were talking about,
Ben
the Renaissance.
Stiller, Judd Apatow, 2000s comedy.
I don't know. And in retrospect, I don't know if I would say I like love those movies, but it is a little comedy thing that I miss. So those movies hold a special weight.
Exactly. Justin Long is an actor who has been in our lives for a very long time, because like you said, those are not necessarily the greatest things ever committed to the medium.
Yeah, exactly.
They definitely hold a special place in like 10-year-old Gus's heart. You know what I mean? Like, oh, dude, the school he goes to is called shit. Ah!
Yeah, I'm not surprised people weren't seeking him out after the movies he was in during this era. I mean, just talking about like knowing in the childhood, for example, like he was in Herbie.
Herbie Fully Loaded?
Yeah.
Thought you were a cinephile. You didn't know that?
That'd be like, I don't remember, but I remember liking that movie a lot. So that's what I'm saying. Just been in our lives a long time, our whole life almost.
Yeah. So, like we said, Zach Cregger kind of referred to him as like a Tom Hanks, whatever that means.
The Apple commercial guy.
Yeah,
I like that.
Exactly. I'm a Mac. I'm a PC. That is some boomer shit.
Yeah.
That's how you know we're getting old. But even him being in this movie, the kind of role that he's playing, now that the movie is getting even more press and more interviews, we've learned that Zac Efron was originally considered for the role. The character's name is AJ. We haven't actually mentioned any of the characters' names yet, but we'll start here. The character of AJ was meant to be this kind of like himbo, good-looking douchebag type of actor. It's kind of like, oh, I wonder why Zac Efron didn't want to be in this movie. Like, yo, you encapsulate this perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, what the hell?
I had mentioned to you that I thought Jimmy Tatro would have been a
I
good
like
choice
that.
for this.
Yeah,
If you guys
I
are
could see
familiar
that.
with him, I think he would have fit that perfectly if that's what they had really decided to go for. But not only does Justin Long subvert expectation because of how long we've known him and how we've grown to trust him as an actor, like with the kind of roles he's in, but even I would say he's maybe the most evil person in this movie, but he comes off as the most the person you would least suspect. You know what I mean? Like if he was in a room, if it was the usual suspects and you lined him up, it'd be like definitely not him. No way, no shot. But I just think that adds to the subversion. I mean, that's what we should call this, the subversion episode. But yeah, Justin Long, incredible performance, hilarious.
Agreed. It was a really standout because I haven't seen Tusk, so it's been a long time since I've seen Justin Long.
Really? Yeah, I mean, and having an actor like Justin Long, the reason I think that this movie is able to even really work, like I was saying, like this should be a bad movie because of how disgusting his character is. If it isn't Justin Long, how are you going to feel for this guy at all? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, good
there's
point.
no fucking way that Zac Efron would have got me to... Zac Efron is funny, but I don't think he would have gotten me to... I wouldn't say side with him, but kind of like rooting for the worst person you know. Like when Justin Long is doing some of the things he does in this, you can kind of like, oh, that piece of shit. Like I do that.
Exactly.
That. Like you trusted him, you shouldn't have trusted him. But yeah, man, Justin Long really, really fucking as AJ, he really carries this movie. I don't know if this is too much of a gripe, but Georgina Campbell, like we said, she plays the main character, Tess. I don't know how I feel about her. You know, I know this has been a big like, a big woman in horror year, right?
Yeah.
Women are carrying horror, but I don't know if this woman is carrying horror. Does she realize the type of movie she's in? Can you forgive someone for denying this many red flags? You know,
She's a good person.
she is a good person, but when you're paired up with AJ, you cannot be a good person.
Yeah.
You know? And Zach Kreger, I don't know if it was lovingly, but referred to the character as a fucking idiot. She doesn't understand what she's walked into, and you know, very rarely do you see someone. I guess only in movies do you see someone escape and actually, I'm gonna go back and try to save this person who I have no clue who they are. You know, but I guess it's just how good of a person she is. I mean, I would have left his ass there. I could have sensed his negativity from a mile away.
I guess that's like a lot of gripe with a lot of horror movies in terms of the characters making the decisions. But I think that this movie does, in retrospect, tries to justify those decisions as much as I've seen most movies try. At least try, you know?
Yeah, so I don't think that she gives a bad performance, but I do think because she is the most, or had the smallest career so far. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen her at all. I've seen her from the Black Mirror episode Hang the DJ that she was in. I mean, much like many young actors, they were in a Black Mirror episode and then kind of varying degrees of success. They can't all be Daniel Kaluuya, but I mean, Barbarian is not a bad movie to be in, you know?
No.
But I just think it's not her. Although I don't think her performance is great, I do feel it does feel a little line ready. Like it doesn't feel like these are words that she's thinking. It feels like words that she was told to say. Where Bill Skarsgård and Justin Long, because they're such good actors, they feel more lived in as their characters. Like I really do believe them. With Tess, it kind of feels like the heavy-handedness of the script that I didn't really enjoy, because a lot of it's coming from her that. I don't want to call it a misstep, but it's one of the things that doesn't really work for me.
Yeah, those are tonal differences that I noticed in the beginning of the first watches. Was notably, I gave it a 3.5. Is
notably,
or the difference,
as in one person, me noticed.
Yeah, that just because I thought that the tonal differences didn't seem to work for me at first, or I wasn't sure how I felt about them, the mesh of them, and then I think. Now I've grown to appreciate that the meshes, although we've talked about the director's, direction in terms of what he might have wanted to do with the result of this movie, I do think it just in this special world that this movie is, it works. It works for this movie.
So we can kind of get into the movie more now that we've set up our characters and we have our synopsis. This is where the fun really starts. I mean,
yeah,
I didn't think we'd get this far without, kind of getting into the movie, but here we go, man. So like we said, double booked Airbnb. We have Tess. We have Bill Skarsgård. His character's name is Keith. And instantly, as soon as the movie starts, spoilers from this point on, right?
Yep.
Spoiler. If you don't want to know, just if you have HBO, watch this movie. I guarantee you will enjoy this way more after you've seen it. In my opinion, it would be a disservice for us to tell you about this movie if you hadn't already seen it. You know, like this is not the type of movie I would want to ruin for anybody.
I agree.
No. You have to go see this on your own. So I rarely am I ever going to say stop the episode now and stop listening. But for this movie, please do. So you can really just kind of enjoy how fun it really is. So we have the double booked Airbnb. We have Keith. We have Tess. And right from the get-go, it starts, the uncomfortableness and the tension just really starts building of what would you do in this situation? You know, first red flag, double booked Airbnb. I wouldn't stay there. Even as a guy, this is something that's brought up later on of like, well, if you were a guy, you'd just march right in. And I don't feel that way at all. Like, I couldn't believe it. I know we have to have a movie, but I just be like, I would rather sleep in the hotel parking lot in my car than here.
Yeah.
All right. Am I crazy here?
I think okay, what this movie does, I guess that I wanted to start with the camera work starts off from the get-go working really well for me. We get these screams right from outside of her car, and we see a character's already kind of distressed, or from, it seems, I would assume she's running late, the airport, all these things, and she's getting a text from what seems like a guy that she's not talking to anymore. You're very annoyed to not talk to anymore. And I think that the only reason this is worth bringing up is by the time that she gets to the door, it's almost like that the last thing you wanted to find out is this place is double booked, and the powers given to our character here of Keith. But I think she was so, like, obviously we've talked about the director talking about like the kind of character that she is. She was more prevalent to do what's more convenient or comfortable than to do the obvious, which, I mean, there's an attempt to, right? In the later scenes after this, there's an attempt to try to do the logical, I'll go to a hotel, but there's a convention.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's only one try, right?
Yeah, that's it. Okay, I called one hotel, and this stranger told me that all the other hotels are booked. Okay.
You can't book another Airbnb and then get the refund later, right?
So I guess I could see why, we're instant. As much as we love this movie, we're already kind of tearing apart the, like, why would you do this? Why would you do this, right? So I could see why that doesn't work for people. Maybe because it's like a, I don't want to say like victim blaming, but like you can't believe how stupid the person is that you are watching, and kind of like how we felt with Bodies, right? Or Triple B's, my bad.
Triple B's. No, but I think the character, the reasons that we know that she's in, like, Detroit, right? Like what she's trying to go do, I think, is someone trying to chase their dream, again, being very ambitious in their decisions. Again, kind of going back to the camera work a little bit, it's just as the audience being set up for where you think you are as opposed to where we later find out we are, is the same reveal that our character gets, which I think is
I don't want to
really
get too off track, but since you've mentioned the camera work, I thought about this now. Since you brought it up, it honestly wasn't something I really thought about. I don't think this movie really hit me in that way from a technical standpoint of like, oh, wow, I thought it was so well crafted. But it what you're talking about, just like the arrival and how it's shot and edited, I do think it has something that Hereditary and other movies have popularized, which is like having this like dollhouse, this isn't reality feel.
That's where you're
like
going,
with the camera work, like it doesn't feel like to me at least, it doesn't feel like she came from the airport. It feels like the story opens up and our person arrives. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't feel that way about, well, like these things you were saying. It just feels like a play or like a dollhouse where, you're just kind of opened up and like, okay, now you're in this world. No explanation. Here we go.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but anyways, going back to the red flags and what's going on here. So Keith, more subversion here, right? He plays this like perfect white knight gentleman, right? Very similar to one of the roles in Men. You know, I've seen that comparison thrown around a lot, that this is a more successful attempt at what Men was trying to do. I don't even feel like they're trying to do the exact same thing.
Neither do I.
But I could see what they were talking about. I think his name was Rory, that character in Men. But yeah, I definitely got Rory vibes. And how about that? It turns out he's a perfect gentleman and knows all of his manners. And he also happens to be a high value male. You know what I mean? He's very top G. But he just so happens to be, you know, the perfect guy. When does this ever happen? You know, it almost feels like it could be some like chintzy meet cute from a romantic comedy, you know, like I was like, no fucking shot they fall in love.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
I walk if they fall in love.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I leave.
I really was like, you're kidding me. But because of his awkwardness and, you know, the circumstance itself, he plays very coy and defensive, which, you know, because he's Pennywise, you're like, I already saw you do that in another movie.
Yeah,
exactly. Fucking work on me. Might work on her dumbass.
Yeah.
Like, but I know you're evil. I can see you, Snake Man.
For some reason, his charm, right, that he seems to have, I don't know, works on her
Funny,
in this movie.
Some call it charm. I call it
Creeping.
predatory nature.
Yeah, exactly. His eyes don't move, huh?
Yeah, what the fuck is that? But,
Cold,
you know,
cold stare.
the circumstance that we're in here leaves them with no other choice but to share the house for the night. And from there, it really kind of threatens to become like a haunted house movie, which I guess you could argue it somewhat is. I mean, Zach Kreger claims this is a very fucking haunted house in his own words. But some people are calling that a plot hole. I don't know really how to feel about that yet.
I told you because you brought it up earlier today when we were preparing for the episode, and it's like I didn't know that. I guess it's like hinted on. I don't know if it was obvious, you know, like for him to think such a strong statement on that.
So we are getting there to the, you know, the reveal, the twist, and everything.
The blah.
But at this point, okay, well, because we don't know that yet, I could see why you're like, what do you mean this house is haunted? But after knowing what I know, I'm like, all right, well, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, no shit. Now that I know what goes down in this house, like, yeah, this place is for sure haunted.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess it's
just
also
not played upon really,
because it doesn't seem to be that supernatural aspect doesn't seem to play a very major part or a notable part, I would say, in the film. Like kind of maybe when I'm talking about issues that I might have felt at first is that it touches upon things, and I felt like you telling me that was like one of those made me feel like that. Like this film touches a lot of things, but I don't know if it necessarily dissects them as much as it thinks it wants to, or people want it to want to.
So they're stuck. Keith and Tess are stuck in the house together for the night. It borders on like, is it going to become romantic? Are they going to smash?
Yeah.
But, they don't, which is probably the right thing to do story-wise.
Lame.
Sickle like me would have made them have sex.
Yeah, exactly.
It should have been a Verhoeven movie. They definitely would have.
They would have. Just because.
Because why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Were you scared? Cowards.
You have the rated R.
More red flags arise. Drinks are offered. I would not take them. Me. But
some
people would, right? And then we have, the real kicker in the middle of the night, honestly, is I think it's like something you would dislike about James Wan movies. We just have an open door, and it's kind of a what just happened there? Like, was that meant to be scary type of moment? But I feel like it's just building to what is gonna come later, So I do think the first night of Tess and Keith being together, although it's kind of charming, it's kind of scary, you don't really know how to feel. I feel like it's the longest part of the movie. Like, it's kind of dragging. You're like, well, okay, what's going on here? Is Keith a murderer, or is he a prince? I don't really know how to feel at this point. and the movie seems a little directionless. Like it almost feels like in the first draft he was like, okay, is this a haunted house movie? Is this a murderer movie? Or is we're getting there to what it really is. But
he was like, why not all of them?
yeah, why not all of them? Why not a little bit of everything? This is like a Neapolitan horror.
I think taking back to when we were young scholars in high school and you would have to write an essay and you'd have that intro paragraph. It's a really big intro paragraph.
Young scholars in high school baked at 8:47.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. But
all I've had today is marijuana, hot Cheetos, and mustard. But yeah, go on about how I was a young scholar.
Yeah, but just in terms of the intro paragraph being very long, there's a lot of setup here, and it's just reeling you in, honestly, because you're like again, yeah, the movie's an hour 40. This does feel like it's at least 20 minutes of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So I see what you're saying about the parts feeling, because you don't know where it's going.
So, I told you it started with the scene. Like Zach Kreger wrote one scene and it sprawled out to being an entire feature film.
Right.
It's this scene, and I feel like it feels a little first drafty, like maybe he kind of wrote it and was just like, yeah, it's good enough for me.
Where the door opened? That's where it started?
No. I'm sorry. I'm just referring to this night.
Oh, okay.
Like the whole night.
I see. Oh, yeah.
Then, like, by
you
the
did tell
time
me
he
that.
got to this, like, okay, now they're asleep. He was kind of like, what now? Like, where do I go from here?
That's where the sicko mind came.
I thought of something.
I know something no one's done.
So they have a safe night. Nothing happens to anybody. There's a James Wan like jump scare in the middle of the night. You see another door open and close in the background. That's so James Wan. I couldn't even.
That's so James Wan.
Thief. But
Leo DiCaprio at the theater. Yep.
I pointed that one out quick. You're like, oh, he's supposedly bad, but everybody copies him. Okay. So Tess goes to her job interview the next day. Keith is attending to business out in the city. Tess gets home and she's looking for TP and gets trapped in the basement, right? And that's where this movie really starts ratcheting up that tension and that horror. Felt like this is where it really picks up, because you're like, okay, here we go. I'm in a horror movie. She's trapped. A door locked on itself. Where does it go from here, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, I feel like it's the worst thing you could expect, right? Is being trapped in a place like this only to realize that there's like a enormous cavern of tunnels, and what would you even call this? Like, how did it get here?
Yeah.
What the hell is this? Is this the tunnels from Up? Or from Us? Up?
I think even when she goes to the interview, something is notable is that Keith isn't in the house anymore, and he leaves her a note, and there's like this. She kind of starts like liking him, like you were talking about, and then at this point, you're like in the movie, like what's going on, right? It's like, well, you think you know where this movie's heading, and then you get to the scene that you're talking about, and you get this slow reveal that there's a secret door. It's really dark. She goes, nope, right? Like, I'm not doing it. And then she's kind of forced to. And curiosity.
What are you going to do, right?
It's curiosity, of course.
And at this point, you're still wondering if Bill Skarsgård is in on this. Because, like you said, he leaves her this cute note. Of course, he's gone in the morning. And you don't really know what to expect. Like, we're like maybe 30 minutes into the movie right now, and you're still not sure. Like, is he going to murder her? Did he set this whole thing up? Is this his house? What the hell is going on? Did he plan on her getting stuck in the basement, But when I think about her being stuck in the basement, I did kind of think, like, I know she says nope and then does it anyways. Another red flag. Why are you, some doors are better left unopened.
Yeah.
But realistically, in that situation, are you just going to sit in that place for God knows how long?
Maybe she's trying to find a way out.
Okay, yeah, 8 hours. I'm just going to not even attempt to escape this basement. So she kind of gets, trapped. It feels like something out of It. Like, oh, this is your only way out. You have to go through this this enormous tunnel system. I don't know. I don't even know where that came from. That to me is probably the most baffling thing in the entire movie. Is like, is that what's going on underground?
Yeah, I think the fact that it's like revealed as a door first, and you just kind of think the room that it's leading to is again, maybe Keith is in on some weirdo stuff, and she's a new victim, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But then the fact that you get revealed and it's this huge tunnel.
Well, now that I have this young scholar hat on, I couldn't help but think of Dante's Inferno.
Nice. Yeah.
When she opens the door, you know, I was like, oh shit, she just entered the 7 rings of hell, or the 7 layers of hell. Like, that's really what it feels like.
I thought about it as above, so below as well.
That's true, yeah. I mean, that's another famous horror trope of like I honestly do think it comes from like descending into hell. You know what I mean? Of like, okay, you've crossed the threshold of like never going back to normal after you walk through that door. That's where we get our amazing poster from, that bold red poster with the woman standing in the doorway. And even then, we're still just getting teased, you know, about what's really gonna happen. It's quick, you know. She finds a fucking room straight out of Saw.
Yeah.
And you know, Keith happens to come back home, and you know, she gets out, and she tells him what happens. Keith, being the fucking sweet prince that he is like, you know, I don't know if I believe you, but your experience is valid, so I'm gonna go down there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying you're crazy. Yeah. I'm just saying I have to go see for myself.
I'm not gaslighting you, you know.
Yeah.
Like Triple B's would have said that.
Yeah.
But Barbarian, you know.
Triple B's.
I wouldn't know. You know, Keith was like, you know, I'm not going to invalidate.
Single B?
Yeah.
No, wouldn't do that.
Exactly. Single B.
I want to say a point
I just want to go down there so I can validate your truth, you know?
I want to say
go
a point
Queen.
That we should have brought up by now is the address for this place, right? It's just 46 Barbarian.
No, 476.
476
Barbarian.
Barbarian. So we thought that had some connection to the name, but apparently not.
No, it just looked cool.
Nice.
Yeah, and if that ain't a good enough reason to name a movie, it fucking sounds sick, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You're not going to see a movie called Barbarian.
Yeah.
And I like that it chose to go solo. It didn't do The Barbarian.
Exactly.
Because I'm kind of sick of movies just being called This. You know, it's kind of cheap.
Personal, yeah. He's like personal choice.
But anyway,
you're valid. Yeah, I like your experience is valid.
Experience, you know. So he goes down there and he witnesses the madness, you know, and he disappears. And at this point, too, you know, we're like 35 minutes into the movie, 36 minutes into the movie, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? Right? Yeah. You're like, he's for sure in on it. He went down there to get her to go in there so him and his fucking sick freak buddies can do whatever comes to their god-awful
I'm about to walk out this movie.
You know? But I'm kind of dancing around here because it's like once I say it, I feel like I just take the air out of the balloon, you know?
Yeah.
But what happens, Alvaro? Fuck.
So I mean, they go to these weird tunnel system that we had brought up before,
and this is more of Tess being a fucking idiot.
Yeah, because so I think another thing this movie does brilliantly, like talking about the crafted, like how it's crafted, right? Is that you hear how far away his voice is, and you're like, how deep is how far away is he? Like, how deep is this? We just seen the first.
Yes, so that is good sound design, right? Because you're like, what the fuck is he like 2 miles away?
Yeah, exactly. Like you get nice reveal of the first segment, and you're like, okay, that's creepy. But then to find a tunnel system that's feels like miles long, or at least like 2 miles long, you know, like, and just to hear him so far away, and they're screaming at each other. You're like, what's going on? In terms of, is she gonna walk in? Is she gonna fall all the way down, or what's up? And then you enter this tunnel system.
Is he waiting for her in his depraved sex dungeon?
Yeah,
you know, you're like, what the fuck am I about to witness? Because at this point, you can feel it that the top is about to explode on this thing. Like, you do know that, like, you don't know what's gonna happen, but it's so strong. You know, like, you can feel it bubbling, like, in your fucking stomach. You can feel the audience, like, oh, okay, here we go. Everybody's raised their shoulders. Everybody's white-knuckled. Like, you just know something is about to happen.
Another notable thing that I think is worth bringing up here, I'm glad that you brought up how you felt about it, kind of reminded me of it, is the score. I thought the moments of tension were really well-crafted in terms of, like, the type of sound that they went with is classical, which always seems to work. I think it's very like an homage to typical horror tropes that you would expect, but I think they come in at very perfect moments of tension. And some movies seem to. I think we had talked about it before when you were a little kid. When you'd read the caption or when you would hear the music coming on, you'd know to look away.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And that's kind of like, I don't know if that's a detriment to the thing, but it's almost like a signature. It's almost something you'd expect. And I think that this film does that part of respecting horror very well.
Yeah. The horror vibe. I know
Exactly.
that's a very simple thing to say.
Atmosphere.
But yeah, the atmosphere, exactly. The mise en scène.
Yeah. and I mean, when she's walking down here, right, we get a reveal of like a gate. That's already weird.
Yeah, no, you're seeing cages, you're seeing just you really do feel like something like as above, so below. Like, okay, I'm walking into hell. And eventually she finds Keith.
There's cages too, remember?
You still, you still are like, oh wow, this is literally what Pennywise does.
Yeah, exactly. He lives down here. Yeah. I got what you want down here.
Keith tells Tess, somebody bit me. Somebody else is down here. We need to run. She attempts to do something smart. Okay, let's fucking get back up the stairs and get the fuck out of here. But he's like, no, that's the direction that they were in. I've been running down the other way. And we get one of the most exciting, fun twists, reveals that I've seen in a very, very long time. And our audience agreed with us, definitely, by the reaction. This tall, 7-foot-something deformed woman comes lumbering down the hallway and smashes Keith's head in on like the side of the cave. And
beast of a woman.
Extremely violent.
Yeah.
It's ratcheted up as high as it could be.
Bumps it up to 11.
Yeah, nice. Sick reference. Everyone knows your references are the same. It's disturbing. It's gory. It's got that signature horror strobe editing effect of like cutting in and out of like, what the fuck is going on? And we get a great horror scream from Tess. I wouldn't say it was Jenna Ortega and X, but it was pretty good. And it cuts to black, and you're just like, what?
Yeah.
It was like a 2001 break in the movie. You know what I mean? Like when
it's
you find out Hal
it's a TV break.
Yeah, when you find out Hal is listening to them, and then it cuts to the intermission, you're like, no.
When they walk in on the kids having sex, like, oh no.
My wife asked me, she's like, is it over? Like, no way.
Yeah,
I thought it was a short movie, but that was like really fast, right? And then it opens up on this beautiful blue ocean,
California,
and we're introduced to Justin Long, and it feels like it's Kubrickian in a way. The way it cuts from it's like Full Metal Jacket from the training, the boot camp scene to being in the actual war. You're just in this totally separate movie.
Wait a minute.
You're even thinking to yourself, I'm ready to reach. I'm ready to have some takes here, okay?
Exactly.
Barbarian is Kubrickian. It's just a totally different movie for like the next 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Like I timed it yesterday. It's not much longer than that before it gets back to its main point. But it's this weird, weird cool off from what you've just seen. Did the projection like break halfway and I'm watching another
second movie? Yeah.
And we're finally introduced to AJ. But before we get to that, how did you feel this first time with the reveal?
I think that was something. At first, I felt like it took kind of how you explained it, getting to the reveal for the podcast, just taking the air out of the balloon, but then not just completely being like, so just keep that tension while I build the other trope of this story that you don't expect, which I felt at first was losing me, even though, and I think it was because we talked about this in the beginning too, but the meta-ness of what the subject was for Justin Long's character during those 10 minutes just felt like, oh, why is this a theme that's going to be tied into the movie?
Yeah.
And so at first I wasn't too sure if I agreed with what the theme, I guess, or what the subject of the matter was. But I think after rewatches, it just really points out the times. It's just the times, and I think our character just kind of again serve as pillars of representations of. You kind of said like Keith is a white knight, and Justin Long's character is meant to be the opposite. And I think that's just what that whole 10 minutes is meant to set up.
Yeah, and maybe because I wouldn't say Zach Kreger is like the most intellectual, emotionally deep writer, that this could not work for some people because it's so obvious. Like, oh, they're yin and yang. You're like, yeah, I get it. This guy's good. This guy's bad. And you subverted my expectations because I was expecting it to be the other way around. I do think maybe if you didn't know anything about this movie, you would assume Justin Long was going to be the good guy and Bill Skarsgård would have been the bad guy. But it is a weird turn. Like even as I was enjoying it, and I basically fucking coomed in the movie. You know what I mean? Like,
hooting and hollering.
Exactly. Our entire audience was honestly like, I felt like people were ready to like throw their popcorn in the air. Like, bravo! But it just takes this crazy turn that like, it just feels like a completely different movie, and it sets up this character of AJ. He's like he's a disgraced sitcom actor. He's being accused of that nasty word that people don't like saying.
Very nasty.
Of our wording. Of sexually assaulting somebody, and you're thinking to yourself, why would I? What the hell?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, why are you doing this to me? Like, I was just in this really good movie, and now you want to introduce me to this fucking guy.
Exactly.
And now I'm like supposed to either root for him or be invested in his story, when within 2 minutes of introducing him, you've already shattered any chance of me liking the guy, right? But much like this movie being two halves, this is where all of the comedy starts to kick in, which is like, okay, this is a very complicated character to decide to make a comedy portion of a movie about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I mean, it's successful. It works, like much in the way something like Red Rocket makes you root for an absolute piece of shit. I think, Justin Long being the actor, and the comedic writing of Zach Kreger, that you're kind of in on this guy, after 10 minutes, which sounds awful to say. I'm buying AJ Gilbride stock at its lowest. He's
as you were just saying.
That charisma, he has it.
Yeah, I get. I was thinking of something and I lost my train of thought. So sorry about that. I wanted to throw it back at you, but
all right. So, we're trying to we're following this guy.
Oh,
realize.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I remember. I was just gonna kind of the joke that you said about being Kubrickian.
Yes.
Is introducing a character in the later stages of the film that you kind of get confused and thrown off by, which is something that he also kind of did. So it's something that you wouldn't expect in a movie that's structured this way, or that is horror, the type of horror that it is.
Isn't it weird that so the first 40 minutes, the masterpiece part of this movie, isn't it weird that feels like it's an hour and the Justin Long stuff feels like the 40 minutes?
Yeah.
That makes sense. Like they feel reversed. But so he's a disgraced actor. He's going to go through some lawsuits. We see here that he's not really the best at money managing. So he's basically going to be out on his ass in 3 months. So he decides it's time to start liquidating. And he has some Michigan properties. That's our first key into the, like, okay, this might start to be making some sense. But you're still wondering to yourself, well okay. So what, is this like a Michigan thing? Like, what's going on here, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And we realize that he's the owner of the property that we just witnessed this gruesome act of violence. And you're wondering how it's going to tie in, and that becomes the tie-in. It's like, okay, shit, he owns this place. And while it was shocking during the first watch, now that you've brought up The Empty Man, it made me think of The Empty Man, how the first 20 minutes of that movie is a completely different movie. Wow, it really is Kubrickian, much like 2001.
Yeah,
First 40 minutes,
exactly.
That was the apes, bro.
Yeah.
That was the apes. They had the bone to the spaceship, man. Tools.
I'm telling you, structured well.
Structured. Wow, this guy really studied Kubrick when he made this piece.
Oh, you like 2001? Yeah, I was just gonna say that the comedy aspects though of Justin Long's character is the bro that we all know, and I think that's where it kind of thematically, like I was saying before, it felt a little too on the nose with the times that we're in and the type of person that would be in the situation that he's in.
Yeah.
And it just works really well, like you had previously stated, because it's Justin Long and the kind of character and roles that we know him for, and the type of way he can still, for some reason, justify being an asshole, which only a few people seem to be able to do in certain movies. Zac Efron, like you said, can pull it off, but I don't know if to this dynamic. And Justin Long was almost the perfect cast.
Yeah, you know, like Zac Efron, his biggest comedic role is probably Neighbors, right? And he's fantastic in that role. That's probably one of his better roles in his entire career, and he is a lovable asshole, but he's the one you love to hate. He isn't like the lovable, you know, he doesn't have soft edges, you know? I mean, literally, he's like chiseled and jacked. And when you look at fucking Justin Long, he's kind of just like a frumpy dude you work in the office with, you know?
I agree.
Skinny, but he got a little beer gut or something like that going on. You know what I mean?
He's
like
cool.
His pants are a little too tight. That shirt's a little too small, but, you know, okay, fuck it, we ride, you know?
Yeah.
He decides to visit his property, right? And he realizes that there's people staying in his house. And it brings us back into what's been going on. So although it's a weird diversion to take in the movie, I do think that it does a good job of reeling it back in.
Mm-hmm.
And then also this movie being two parts, like the comedy really does come from the unawareness, and much like Triple B's, how it's like, this guy's a moron. You know, like he also doesn't realize what kind of movie he is in for at least 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And I think that Justin Long just fucking sells it, dude. Like we've been saying to ourselves since we've seen this movie, like, hell yeah, bitch. When he realizes that he could, once he discovers, you know, the secret passage, that I can use this to raise the property value of this place. Like, oh shit, I'm going to be able to get more money.
Exactly.
I see, you know, it's going around on Twitter a lot how, like, this is one of the, like, how could you call Barbarian a bad movie
because of
when
this?
It has Justin Long doing shit like this?
Yeah.
And, you know, we've been describing a lot of horror on this show as Looney Tunes like recently.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, Justin Long tape measuring while he's passing all these horrible things and just ignoring it and being like, oh, hell yeah, this is making the property value go up. Like, that is more Looney Tunes or
very
Tom and Jerry,
Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo-ish of anything that I could imagine, of like Scooby and Shaggy fucking their noses to the ground following a trail of snacks.
Yeah.
And in the background, you see three monsters go, like with the face. You know what I mean? Like, that's literally what's going on in this movie. And our audience, at least, was like laughing, but in disbelief. Like, the girl who's sitting next to me was literally like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, what is he doing? Like,
yep.
He literally sees a bloody cage and is just like, okay, well, what's the square footage on this? Where we're holding these cages.
Yeah. And I think that's where thematically those 10 minutes that you find out what type of subject of trouble our character's in.
Oh, like this is serious shit.
So like, I think what it does so well is set up why he would completely be oblivious to what is actually happening here, but be more interested in his personal self-gain. They've done very well of setting up this character as somebody who would do something that is arguably the most selfish thing you could do.
Oh, yeah. He is an embodiment of selfishness.
So I think that's why it works so well in terms of comedic and then also throwing off the audience. So, well, you get those both audience, reactions from people, which I think, again, kind of going back to audience expectations, I don't know if people, after watching the first half of this movie, the people who are here for a traditional horror movie are probably pretty satisfied by the first half of it. But then when the second comedic part of it comes in, that, I mean, we talked about Triple B's and we talked about American Werewolf in London, and talking about movies that have, you know, comedic parts to it. I mean, we even talked about Poltergeist. One of our favorite sound bites from it is pretty hilarious to us, you know. So I think that this movie kind of that's where people get lost. They see some comedy in it and that's not what I came for, you know. And this film, though, not only uses that comedic tone to juxtapose the crazy stuff that we just seen, but I think it really makes Justin Long's character make so much more sense for the decisions he's going to make down the road.
Oh yeah, especially because I don't want to say we skipped past this, but we should bring it up at least that he does admit to some guilt in this sexual assault rape case that he is
through some friend
that he is in, the situation that he's finding himself in. Not only through his friend, he does the whole like I'm a persistent dude. Like she said no, but she didn't really say no.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, most people have heard somebody say that in their lifetime, and it's awful, but. There's a lot of Justin Longs in the world, and they're not always the fucking Zac Efron archetypes.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say somehow it's even scarier when it's somebody like Justin Long. It's like the unexpected.
Yep.
But I didn't really want to jump past it too much because it's a tricky subject, obviously, to talk about, like your main character, one of your main characters being a rapist. But
yeah.
I don't know if I really don't know if I can say that it was handled poorly or not, because you feel weird. It's like, okay, like, yeah, it's really funny, but is this even something I'm supposed to be laughing at? Like, is that a judgment of the audience? Like you think he's funny, but you're not supposed to think he is. I don't know how to feel about
to litmus test.
I don't understand what Zach Kreger's trying to do other than be very obvious. That like, oh, this is black and white, yin and yang.
He's a bad
One
person.
guy was good, this guy's a bad person. Like, he's a bad person. He does evil things, Like, I don't know if it's really supposed to be that heavy-handed or really what he's trying to do, other than just kind of give you this give you the ugliest character trait you could have as a piece of knowledge for the audience to be like, don't trust this guy. Don't trust this rapist.
I think it becomes kind of a point for confliction down the movie when he is dealing with our main character,
Tess,
and there's some of reactions that he's getting that seem genuine. So I just think it's kind of also meant as the biggest distraction.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know if that's. I mean, who am I to say if it's being handled well or not? But I don't think it is, Like, I enjoy the movie. I'm not somebody who thinks that characters cannot be, disgusting and still be likable. I mean, we all like, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragons, that show, or things like Succession. Who's your favorite war criminal? Who's your favorite fucking corporate lobbyist? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, people do like to root for shitty people and things.
I mean,
especially in movies, because it's like, well, if they're going to exist anywhere, let's have it be in a fucking movie where it's not actually real what's happening.
I mean, just a little side note, but like just how much people are into stuff like Dahmer and Bundy, And
exactly.
So, yeah, that's real stuff.
Who's dressing up their kid as AJ Gilbride for Halloween?
Yeah, there's a lot of AJ Gilbrides.
Oh man. So getting back to the movie a bit, I do think we should wrap it up soon with the actual plot of this movie, what happens. Justin Long, he's finding out the square footage of the home. It's all played for laughs and comedy. It's subverting what we just saw. So, like we said, more of that subversion. This is really what this movie is built on. It's the plate that this meal is carried on, Eventually he gets deep enough into the cavern tunnel system that he discovers our monster. I don't know if that feels weird to say, our creature, our monster, and he gets chased, he falls into a hole, and we are brought back to Tess, our main character. Holy shit, she's still alive.
Yeah.
And this is where the movie gets tied back together. The first half, this weird second act that we've been seeing, and now we're really off back into our scary movie fully.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think that this movie? I know you like it more upon rewatches, but how did you feel like when it was getting back into the swing of things?
On first watch, yeah, I think I still did like what it I thought it was ambitious even from then to try to take such a sidetrack for a good amount of time and then connect it, because I knew previously, knowing how long the movie is, that it had like a pretty compact time to try to explain what's going on to me.
That's true.
And also wrap it up. And in terms of how my whole interest then became, how is this movie going to end?
Yeah, because I mean, at this point, you're like an hour 10 into the movie.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, oh shit, there's 30 minutes left. 5 of those are going to be credits. It's time to start, really fucking pumping and dumping this information of what the hell's going on. What is this creature? What's the history? And for me, it works. I could see how it doesn't for some people, because the movie kind of weirdly has like an anthology feel to it. Like it almost feels like 3 separate movies, all built into one, and like this theme of like evil like rooting itself into the literal foundation of the house, and how that will carry on forever. Like no matter what, like I think one of the taglines for the movies, like some stay for a night, some stay for a week, some stay forever. So now that we have Justin, AJ, and Tess, the movie really starts taking the time to explain itself. He falls into the hole. We kind of see that this avatar-like woman is fucking super like unnaturally strong. Like she jumps in that hole and she grabs him and she yanks him out like all with one hand and like one hops the wall. Like she's like an Avengers level threat of a person.
I mean, she definitely would have, a good fight with She-Hulk.
Yeah,
she could be a nemesis. Yeah, there'd be a nemesis for sure. So this is definitely a species of a woman, unexplainable. Kind of reminded me of, in a way, like you said, a mix of Gabriel and like Slender Man.
Yeah, movie does feel a little creepypasta-ish now that you brought up Slender Man. But in the best ways. Just like I felt like Malignant was creepypasta-ish.
Taking the best from those things.
Yeah. So, we get the reveal of the avatar-like woman, and the movie takes another weird cut, and it jumps back in time. And now we're on different. We've seen 2 different parts of the country. Now we're in a different part of time.
Yeah.
We're back in the past. We're seeing Detroit when it was still a reasonable place to live, I guess. And
Cosmic
the movie
Gumbo
takes about 5 more minutes to kind of set up the origin of the evil in this house.
Yep.
We see a character named Frank. He's the original owner of 476 Barbary. I guess in terms of this movie, he is right. He's the original owner, and we see the neighborhood's going to hell, but he's not going nowhere, and we get clued in that he is a kidnapper, murderer, rapist, and we're kind of clued in that this underground tunnel system is where he, commits all these crimes, and then it weirdly jumps back, back to our main story.
I will say during this segment that's where kind of a little bit of the camera work stood out to me again. I did like the point of view of just being behind him.
It feels like a fisheye almost.
Yeah, and I did like that it did feel very dreamlike, not part of or just the audience being filled into insight before revealing a plot, which to some might be in terms of heavy-handedness, right? Be like you're revealing information literally in a cut back to time, but I think for me it works in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, you do you feel like it would have been better if you didn't know? Like, does it really sell you one way or another on this movie, the knowing the origin of what's happening?
I think for the last character that we get revealed in terms of not being a major character and things being explained, I think it served its purpose to I guess some of the plot holes in this movie do come from in terms of what the creature that we're seeing is and what it gets inferred to what it is. And I guess it tries to make its attempt at explaining that,
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to have a straight exposition dump in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It does sprinkle the exposition kind of heavily in some parts of the movie.
Exactly.
Like you have these really high moments of tension, and then it's like, whoa, slow it down. Time to start exposition dumping on you. Like this.
They literally slow it down on you.
Maybe that will change, in more if he makes more horror movies.
Exactly.
We'll see a difference in how he goes about telling a story. I don't know if he's exactly the best storyteller, but I know he came up with one fucking crazy story.
Yeah, exactly.
So, back to our main story, Tess and AJ. They get a chance to... Tess gets a chance to escape. She should have just fucking escaped there, right? If she knew who AJ really was, would she have even gone back? I think that adds more to her being a good person and also being an idiot, which are... sadly, those two things kind of go together.
Yeah, especially in movies.
Yeah, especially in movies. You get punished for being a good person.
Bozo.
AJ, L plus you're nice.
Yeah, exactly. Should have been selfish.
Yeah.
The old man told you.
AJ, he gets, to go through some gruesome, disgusting things. I did think not the prop work, but the makeup and practical effects, truly disturbing.
Yeah.
I didn't say it's The Thing level, but I did think this is effectively disgusting me.
It's to the level of, almost reminded me of The Ring.
Yeah. Oh, I get you. So AJ has a moment to kind of look around, kind of figure out what the hell's going on, and he comes across a room that our creature, we'll refer to her as the mother from now on, he comes across a room that the mother is scared to go in. He approaches a door and she takes off, and he goes into this disgusting room underground. And earlier when you brought up seeing workshops, right? We talked about that in Jeepers Creepers. We talked about that in Malignant, Insidious. That we love a horror workshop, where you get Silence of the Lambs, where you get to see where the nasty shit goes down.
What a pig.
The Wailing has one, the shrine room. And he comes across this old man who is referred to as Frank. He's the father that we saw
in the flashback.
In the 80s, right? In the flashback. And Justin Long thinks he's a victim, more of that subversion going on. And I also didn't know what to make of this scene, really, because it's kind of Justin Long. I don't want to say looking in a mirror, because you can't really compare they're guilty of the same crime, but you cannot compare these two people.
I think that's where, okay, so
right? Or
where,
am I crazy?
no, because
I don't know. I don't want to get in trouble for saying that.
No, because I was going to say, that's where this movie, I thought I understood where people get the deep meaning from it, but then after us talking about it before the podcast, in terms of Zach Krieger, to no discredit, might have just sprinkled these things in there because he thought it would make the film better, or if he actually meant to make this dissection on it. But I do think it kind of plays on the terms that because of the era, again, Reaganomics, in terms of, we've talked about this with us a lot this year, and even Poltergeist. But it's the character that would come out of that branding with America, right? So that older character, Frank, like you said, is almost reflective of what AJ's character is, but almost like the ultimate version because of the thoughts or the
excess, right?
Yeah, or like this is mine, like I'm never leaving this place, right? In terms of I'm making this mine, and I think he's successful in that because the environment reflects that this place has literally gone to shit. And I think that making it yours in terms of his, like, he made it evil. And I think that I agree with your sentiment that they could be reflected on, but I think that he's such an extreme version of him that it almost seems offensive to want to go there. But then we talked about, I don't know if those things are done on purpose.
Okay, so now that you've said that, it's got me thinking. So with Bill Skarsgård, okay, because this movie, like we said, built on subversion, right? How the hell do we know that Bill Skarsgård was not going to do something? You know, like that Bill Skarsgård maybe was going to kill her, and he never got around to it because they were interrupted before by, oh, fuck, there's actually something else in this house. Not just me. There's something even more evil, right? And then the even deeper layer is that, like, oh, fuck, there's this creature here. Oh, wait, she's not even really the fucking antagonistic monster in this movie. It's her like literally at this point like a demon of a father.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this fool is like an anime character. He's ascended past being a human. He's now just a demon and a human.
I thought
body,
this fool had like was like 120. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's what he looks like.
He looked fucking like at the end of Ron. You know what I mean? Like the Emperor at the end of Ron.
Because I mean, when he's in the 80s, he's Frank. He already looks old.
Yeah, he did.
So
he was 25 there.
Some cigarettes were recommended by doctors.
Yeah, exactly. But well, and what I wanted to tie that point up with was that, like, so with AJ, right? AJ confesses to his crime over the phone and to his friend, like we said, but. Oh man, these are tricky waters that I was not intending Zach Kreger to get me into. But the character of AJ, you know, like is he a bad person who does bad things, or is he a good person who did one really bad thing? You know, because he truly is like revolted and just truly disgusted by what he's witnessed on these videotapes that Frank has. Right?
Yeah,
and he's like, "You're a monster," but then it's like you said. You were guilty of the same thing, but they're hard to compare because like one is obviously so evil, like it feels like pure evil, you know, versus like, was this a bad thing that somebody did? You know,
yeah,
like this is tough stuff to talk about.
This guy was just a bro in terms of him, AJ's character, just trying to get a primitive feeling out of the way. But then Frank's character is an extreme version of that has a whole other mindset or agenda.
There's nothing to really say about him other than he's just like an embodiment of evil, you know? Like,
yeah.
It's like an evil spirit escaped from hell and took like host in this guy's body.
My comedic moment that I don't think is supposed to be comedic is when he fakes that he's an electrician for the city. He puts on a coat. This is Frank's character, by the way. He puts on a coat and his name's Carlos. And I thought that was one of the funniest things ever.
That ain't no Carlos.
You're not a Los.
Wait, no Carloses in Detroit in the 80s.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you look like that? You know, I mean, come on. This ain't no Mexican guy from Acapulco. He don't look like that.
No. But, you know, Tess, I kind of want to hurry this up now, but Tess, she escapes. She has a poorly written run-in with the cops. You know, more of that heavy-handedness. Zach Kreger's obviously a cat.
Yeah.
You know
we appreciate that.
So I appreciate that, but honestly, didn't need that. I know you haven't loved that since the first time we've seen it together. You had mentioned that was kind of like not a plot hole, but just like bad writing. Like not even giving the cops enough credit to like even bother investigating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like his direction was like, you're a cop, cops suck. Like that was it. You know what I mean? So she goes back. She attempts to save AJ. More of the madness ensues. AJ just keeps burying himself in a hole of like being a complete piece of shit. You know what I mean? Like there isn't really much going on here, honestly. Like this becomes your generic horror film at this point, honestly.
Yeah, because they take out the mother. What you think is they take out the mother, and she goes in there to basically save him because she thinks she's taking him out. And this is where we get the character contrasting, I guess, just the type of people that they are. She went in there to save him because she felt bad, but then he didn't even think about just firing that thing, you know?
I'll shoot now and ask questions
Yeah,
later.
exactly. He's not very...
Yeah, he shoots Tess on accident in the middle of the night. And, well, you would think that that's like, of course this guy fucking did that.
Yeah.
You're also... I don't know. Would I have done that? You know, if I knew there was a 7-foot super beast walking around,
I'm just hearing anything
and
I'm shooting.
Aired the clip out. You know
And
I mean?
and I think that that's where the selfishness that he had to be like that. She's not coming back. Why would she come back? She's gonna leave. And
in AJ's head, why would you ever come back for me?
Yeah.
Not because he's me, but because I would never.
I would never come back for you. Yeah. Like, did you just see what we saw? Right.
George Costanza escaping the fire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Pushing old ladies and kids out of the way.
There's a 7-foot monster in here. I'm never coming back if I can get out.
So you know he shoots her. They at this moment the mother is incapacitated, or at least we think. We don't know what happened to her. They try to escape. They visit a homeless man who we did not mention earlier in the movie. This was another piece of subverting moviegoer expectations. Tess is chased by what we think is just some like crazy, wild homeless person, right? But in reality, he was trying to help her the whole time because he's been living in this, what would you even, like a dilapidated suburb for like 15 years now, and he knows what goes on in this area. So he was actually trying to help them. So, hey, more subversion, you know. That one doesn't feel as well done as some of the others. But
yeah,
they try to take refuge, try to maybe patch up Tess as much as they can. AJ really confesses his guilt here. At this point, we're like, okay, we get it. You fucking did what you did.
Yeah.
Can you let that go now? We have a 7-foot woman to escape. But here we get our exploitation moment. I think this is probably the most this is the most malignant moment in the movie, honestly. You know, the mother rips through the wall, rips the homeless dude's arm off, and I don't want to say she beats him to death because I'm pretty sure he was dead the second she fucking
the arm off.
dismembered him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Our two characters try to escape. Justin Long, for the second time, has fumbled his weapon, and he has a moment where he comes to grips with, you know what? I'm gonna have to fucking sacrifice your ass, Tess, and he throws her off the water tower.
Nice.
Right? You audibly kind of laughed at this moment. Many of our audience members did as well. I thought it looked cheap. I thought it looked silly when the mother threw herself off the water tower to save Tess, but that's part of the comedy, I guess, right? I do think that it was meant to be funny. It reminded me of the other guys. Aim for the bushes. You know?
And the Black Adam meme.
You know, Justin Long fucking... You're like,
POS.
this is a shitty feeling. This guy just fucking won. No, are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
you know, but subversion is the name of the game. And Justin Long goes down there and he's like, I didn't even actually throw you. You slipped. That's crazy. Like, you just so happened to, like, damn, wasn't that wild how we were, like, so out of it?
He just literally, how Triple B would say, was gaslighting her.
Yeah. And our mommy is not dead yet. She decides to gouge his eyes out and split his skull in one of the most metal-looking kills I've ever seen in the movie. Very, like, Gears of War or something like that, you know? That type of level of violence.
I feel like if, you know, Alfred Hitchcock used to be so scared of the things he would watch. Be like, I would just wish I could show. You know how they always talk about giving a Victorian kid Sprite? Like, it's like giving Alfred Hitchcock, letting him watch that scene in Barbarian.
I don't like having my eyes ripped out.
Yeah. I just wish, you know.
Are you a podcaster if you don't have a bad Hitchcock impression on deck? No, you're not. That's the answer. But we get our final moment here. The mother has realized that Tess, her baby, is injured. Kind of what appears to be not really fixable, you know, especially for this creature.
Yeah.
Like, what is she going to do, right? Cover it with, like, matted hair? You know, like, I guess I'll use my hair as gauze. Tess takes this moment to finally kind of have some say in her own situation here and kills the mother finally with the gun that we have that they've acquired over the course of the movie. I thought it was kind of a weird touch that it cut to that Ronettes song. Was it?
Yeah, right.
Baby? Yeah,
Which I really like, but it just it was like kind of like
Scorsese did it first.
Yeah.
Many others have tried. And then it ends, you know, and it's kind of when I said that the air was out of the balloon, the ending, you have this really, really exciting moment of this man getting his arm ripped off, you know, just exploitation, violence cranked to the highest level, and then it's over in a second, you know, and it's kind of this, because it's the second time it happens, you're like, wait, it's not over yet, right? But it is. Credits start rolling. Our protagonist walks away alive, you know. She's a final girl. She gets out of this alive, you know. Plot hole, she couldn't walk 2 seconds ago, but now she's perfectly fine to walk 10 miles to the nearest hospital. Because the movie is over, and I no longer need that to make sense.
Exactly.
But, yeah, that is Barbarian. I did not think that we would kind of break it down like that, scene for scene. But one of the movies of the year, man. This is easily going to crack my top 10 like for the end of the year.
Yeah, I just
it's going to take some readjusting, but sorry, RRR, you might have to go. But yeah, Barbarian was a really, really fun time.
I will say something that I noticed because you brought up the Bill Skarsgård character and Justin Long character is that the mother is so maybe because our main character is very submissive, she takes on the mother role for her. but she's so quick to bash Keith's head, you know? And it kind of really makes you think, is why was she so, because even Justin Long's character, she's trying to breastfeed at first. So why was she so against Keith's character so fast in terms of just bash his head? And then at the end, she really lets the main character, Tess, she lets Tess shoot her. Like in terms of, because she understands that she's letting her know that she can't go back into the house. And the mother's okay with that, but her dream is to be a mother, as we see from the various. I thought it was weird that there's a lot of clips in here where the TV's playing in the middle of, like, you know, and it's just playing a baby instructional video. Yeah, that felt like
the breastfeeding video.
That felt like a lot of horror, like homages to a lot of horror movies. You always got to have the TV playing something, you know.
When she booped Justin Long on the nose.
Yeah.
Boop.
But and so I did find it interesting again of the rewatch, just thinking about those things, you know, where this film is like, oh, well, it's just is a very fun film on the surface, but it's interesting that there's all these themes that are at least touched upon or addressed.
I think we've barely cracked the surface. We never claimed to be, you know, intellectuals, but I do think that this movie, the longer time passes, that there's going to be a lot to say about this movie. And I think it's because it was written by somebody who we don't regard as, like we do Jordan Peele, of like, oh, he's this very intelligent man. You know, like half the reason he's so funny is because he's so smart.
Exactly.
You know, like it's not like I would think of Jordan Peele as like, you know, like in the 80s, how all the Simpsons writers went to Harvard and things like that.
Right.
You know, like it's there's a science to this.
To how funny, you know?
It is. And I don't know if Zach Kreger really fits that bill. Not yet, at least, you know, but he had a very, very good idea, and he capitalized on that idea. And the things that might be lacking, I think he covered that with the excitement and the violence and the subversion and all those other things. So, like, I do think he's well on his way to being a really impressive director, but I don't think he's there yet.
I think what I did like about this movie, or the reasons why I did like the aspects of the horror a lot, is that when it does decide to take it there, it really takes it there. We've talked about a lot, and I've said it on this podcast a lot, about wanting monster films more, and this film is that.
Yeah, exactly. One last thing I wanted to mention, we were kind of in this frame earlier, but we moved past it. Was that A24 and Neon both passed on this movie, right? And I don't think it even really feels like an A24 or a Neon movie. Like, honestly, I don't think that Barbarian fits in with The Witch and Midsommar and Hereditary. I also don't think it fits in with, like, Titan or even something like... I had it on the top of my head, but I was thinking of another Neon horror movie. But I don't feel like it fits.
Crimes of the Future.
Yeah, see, like Crimes of the Future, is it? You know, people call Parasite a horror movie, so I really don't know. But
True.
Neon, I don't feel like it feels like one of their movies either, you know? Like,
no.
I do think that this feels more, honestly, and I mean this in the best way, in line with, like, the better Blumhouse films. It just doesn't match those two, and I'm kind of glad it didn't, because... maybe if this was an A24 or a Neon film, that we would be just viewing it in a different light, honestly.
Maybe it would have been supervised a little different, maybe not, you know?
Yeah, you know what? Maybe one of the reasons Triple B's wasn't as good or funny as people wanted it to be was because it was an A24 movie. Yeah. You know, and you're like, you should have let someone who's interested in making this type of movie do it.
There's an expectation, I think, maybe... with the type of horror movies A24 puts out, whether we're right or wrong about that.
The A24 producers would have like, not vague enough.
Yeah. He didn't look at the end of the screen into the camera.
The A24 movie would have been like, don't tell them shit. I don't want them to know anything about this fucking movie. They just have to be like, oh man, was that even real?
So Frank would be there, but with no flashbacks. He'd be like, who is that?
Yeah. He'd be like the old lady in The Green Knight. Like, I don't fucking know. There was this old guy there. Was he even there?
And then I'd be like, it's Justin Long's character in the future.
Yeah, exactly. But enough talking about them, because they have nothing to do with this movie, and they completely fucked that up.
Yep.
So, Big win for cinema, honestly. Big win for horror movies. Big win for original storytelling.
Yep.
I think massive dub all around. And that this is why I love doing this podcast, is movies like Barbarian, honestly. Like when we did Titan, when we've done things like Lamb, many of the other movies we've done, this is one of those ones that really, really sticks out to me. And like, I'm just glad that we're here now, so that in 5-10 years, when people are looking back, it could be like, yeah, we were there. I witnessed Barbarian
in the theaters.
A couple weeks ago, this is kind of a side tangent, but a couple weeks ago, like, you were wearing a The Thing shirt, right? And we were in a building, and one of the security guards asked you if he's like, oh, what do you know about The Thing?
Yeah.
You know, and like, I would love to be like that about Barbarian one day. But you know about Barbarian. I was there.
Yeah.
I saw it in the theater. But I fucking love this movie. I feel like you do too. And this is one that I feel really happy to champion, and I will be telling everybody about this movie, you know?
Yeah.
I hope if you've seen this movie or if you paused it and came back after watching it, that you will also spread the good word, because these are the type of movies that, you know, we need more of, is like this communal experience that we don't really get anymore. You know, you get it for things like Game of Thrones, where it's like, oh, on Sunday nights, everybody's watching House of the Dragon. And that's cool. You know, I kind of miss that. And it's really nice that something like horror is doing that right now. It's like bringing people together. I feel like that wraps up our Barbarian conversation. But since this is the end of Halloween season, I did think that we should mention just how good of a year horror is having. I know you have some numbers in front of you. This is just kind of a outro / big ups to the genre, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's the closing episode for Halloween. We had our summer talking about horror movies.
We're not going to talk about them again for a while.
Yeah, we're going to really try. I mean, even though there's upcoming horror films that we'll probably talk about, you know. But talking about just ending this month, a big shout out to horror this year, as it seems to hold a very unique spot, as they seem to be the only genre that really pushes going to the theaters for these releases, as other genres seem to just kind of go to VOD now, you know. And so horror as a whole did 590 million this year so far. And you know, a lot of the movies that are on here, so Nope is number 1, and we have The Black Phone at number 2, Smile number 3, Scream number 4, Halloween Ends number 5.
$145 million.
And yeah, we're talking about like movies that, you know, for example, Barbarian's number 6 after Halloween Ends, whose budget is just so much more limited than Halloween Ends, but people are they're craving original horror, you know. And I think like Nope being at the top, The Black Phone being at the top, Smile being at the top really depicts that. And Barbarian being a movie that's even above X and Bodies in A24's whole repertoire. Like Barbarian is on top of them, up there with, you know, Paramount and Universal's horror movies. And it's just such a good dub for horror as a whole year. Everything that we've had such a diverse horror palette. We've had stuff with Terrifier too, and that people are like
$250,000 and it's made over 5, right?
Yeah.
It just fucking works, man. Horror is that genre where you can make it cheap and you can make it effective. And you refer to it kind of like porno. It's like everybody wants to see it, you know, even if they're saying they don't want to. Everybody can't resist themselves. They want to take a look.
We're anxious for a good kill, I think, you know, and
it's just part of loving movies, man.
And all of these movies, have.
You know, if this has been a really good year for not just horror overall, but like just movies in general. But I think one of the things you have to love is that horror is making it easier for other films now, you know, like maybe maybe because of Barbarian, 2 more cool movies are going to get made that wouldn't have before, because they weren't expecting Barbarian to bring in $40 to $50 million. You know, they probably thought, we'll make 6. You know, this is probably going to be a loss. I know Barbarian was almost released on Hulu because it's 20th Century Studios, you know, like Fresh, that was released on Hulu. No Exit.
Prey.
A lot of the 20th Century Studios movies are basically just it's a direct to VOD pipeline.
Yeah,
right?
Prey.
Yeah, Prey. There you go. There's another one.
We really liked this year, so
I mean, you could kind of that you know that
it's a little
horror.
horror. Yeah.
I mean, Jaws was back in theaters. That had a big resurgence this summer.
Number 8.
What?
Number 8.
Oh, yeah, number 8. This is depending on how you feel, Doctor Strange. You know, one of the bigger movies of the year. Heavy horror vibe. So I do think that. Although I'm tired of talking about horror, and I wasn't expecting this to be half of a horror podcast for half of a year, this is why I love movies. And this is just really exciting to see, you know, that this is kind of the direction that movies are going. I do think that right now we're in a very good spot. We were just talking about this weekend. It's like, wow, I have the option to see Tar, Triangle of Sadness, or Decision to Leave. And now we're talking, like, now we're back in that frame of like, okay, let's talk about cinema with the capital C, you know?
Yeah.
But we buffered it with some horror, and I do think that this was actually a good year to do it. You know, like although we've been doing so much of it, like this year didn't make it any easier or any harder, you know? Like it was like, well, what am I not going to do these? These are pretty good movies.
It was so well set up that we were able to do honors to 2 of our Mount Rushmore horror directors, even though The Northman isn't technically a horror movie. It's derived.
It's definitely not.
It's derived from. Yeah, it's like derived from a director that we've known for those things, and I think that that's how well the year was set up for these directors for their shining light. We were able to highlight Jordan Peele's, horror film so far, and Robert Eggers, and I think that they were just so well set up, and we had a lot of like Poltergeist is 50 or 40 years, and then Jaws, how we talked about, and like, I don't know, it was just written in the stars, his horror's year. And I don't know if I would assume based off of, I didn't look into it like by genres, is it the number 1, in the box office, or is it like kind of like we talked about?
Superheroes for sure going to take that.
Yeah.
They only have to release 3
Black
to
Panther.
cover that. Yeah. No Condom Forever.
Yeah, No Condom Forever coming out soon, and I know it just blows the numbers on all of these movies, but I think I would hope it makes studios just kind of turn their head and want to make more
let's fund
horror.
This is good for everybody if we do this.
A24 and Neon shouldn't be the only ones giving $5 million to people who want to make ambitious horror movies. I think that if Fox gives $15 million, we might get these cool. Crazy. I mean, because there's scenes in Barbarian, like for example, you brought up where Justin Long's character is looking at what Frank's character did, and we don't get shown those things.
Yeah,
we just kind of only have to assume. But I think that all comes down to budget.
Yeah, you never know. In a higher budget movie, you might get something even more gruesome. But it's time to end this podcast soon. But I feel like now we're kind of preaching a message, of these studios, not just A24, not just Neon, not just Blumhouse. Like, you really have something here where if you do this correctly, it's a win for everybody financially, critically. The audience is going to get a really fun movie. And it's like, why are you not building your studios with the backbone of horror, of like, this is how we're going to make our money, and then we will be able to make what we actually want to make.
Horror for everybody.
And how often does this shit become IP? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if in 2-3 years they were like, oh, there's Barbarian 2, Barbarian 3. Like, it'll probably fucking suck, but I just think that like we could even possibly have more studios if more people would take these chances on like you're saying, these ambitious horror movies, because people are going to line up and see these.
Terrifier joins the MCU.
Oh god, Dark the Clown is the newest Dark Avenger. All right, well, I think that's enough for us now. So like, comment, subscribe, let us know how you feel about Barbarian, and spread the good word. Bye bye.
See ya.